So there you have it, folks. If you didn't know how disastrous a Labour government would be for the economy, you surely must know it after today's budget. In the lead up to today, we were repeatedly told by the Chancellor and the Prime Minister how difficult it would be to make ends meet. But instead of bearing down on spending, actually this is a budget for those on welfare. It's a budget that's designed to curry favour with people who are not working. Welfare payments are to be gold-plated. They will go up in accordance with inflation. Everyone else who's working in this country will be penalised for it. People who can't afford to have children will have their benefits increased, and everyone who works in this country will be made to pay for it. Instead of removing the two-child benefit cap, actually what the Chancellor should have done was introduce tax allowances for people who have children. So it's those in work who are incentivised to have children and able to have children, not people who are out of work. It's completely the wrong incentive to have. But the main point is this: if the country's finances are so stretched, and they are very, very stretched, there should have been no increases in spending. The spending should have absolutely had a lid on it, and those who were working should have been encouraged to work more by reducing the burden of cost and taxes on them. Instead, more people are going to be dragged into the tax net, more people are going to be dragged into higher tax thresholds. If you've been a responsible saver and owner of your home, and you've successfully achieved the purchase of a semi-valuable property, frankly, in London, you will now pay a wealth tax. That starts at £2,500 per annum, but you can bet your bottom dollar that in future years, that wealth tax is going to creep up. And if you impose a wealth tax on the so-called wealthy in this country, by the way, this is going to hit many people who do not regard themselves as wealthy. Let me tell you that for absolutely nothing. When you increase the tax on the so-called wealthy, you drive people out of the country. We have already lost thousands and thousands of millionaires over the last couple of years because of the way the economy has been managed. And this is going to drive people more out of the economy. Literally, before I did this piece to camera, I spoke to a few people. I'm in property. I spoke to a few people who work in the residential property market, and they said there's going to be a complete freeze on the transacting of properties above £2 million now. That basically means that Chancellor is going to collect less tax than she thought she was going to when she introduced this wealth tax. And that is the effect of increasing taxes. The more you increase them, the less economic activity you get, the poorer we all become, and the poorer the government becomes. And that is precisely the kind of economics she is practicing. This is what I would call third world Zimbabwe Mugabe economics. Rewarding those who are not working, rewarding those who want to have children but can't afford to have them by lavishing expenses on them, punishing businesses, punishing people who've worked hard all their lives, and making the working class and the middle classes pay even more tax. I haven't gone into it in detail. I could, but I think, suffice it to say, this is a deeply damaging budget, and even the OBR knows it. The Office of Budget Responsibility, which is effectively a left-leaning entity, a left-leaning bureaucratic nonsense that tends to support these stupid tax, borrow and spend policies, that itself is saying that growth is going to reduce, that productivity in this country is going to reduce, that the national debt as a percentage of GDP is going to increase by 2030. This is not a budget that even seeks to right the difficulties that the Exchequer is facing. By the OBR's own assessment, national debt as a proportion of GDP is going to go up. This is a disaster. The country was on a knife edge economically. It's been teetering on financial collapse, and interest rates are bound to go up. The markets are bound to lose faith in the United Kingdom. And when that happens, the government will not be able to finance its ever ballooning deficits. At that point, frankly, not even the IMF will be able to bail us out. I've been forecasting this for about a year now. It hasn't happened as fast as I initially thought, but it is coming down the track. The government has learnt nothing about the borrow, tax and spend policies that have got us from in the last 30 years to this terrible position in which we now are. The only way that this country is going to find itself back onto its economic legs is if we cut spending, We cut back welfare for people who aren't working. There are 4 million people in this country who aren't even looking for a job, and they are getting benefits. If we slash benefits or remove benefits for foreigners, remove the absolute ridiculous amounts of money that we spend on people who've entered this country illegally, remove foreign aid, and so on and so forth, I can save billions for the exchequer in a few strokes of a pen. Billions can be saved without impacting the economy, without impacting British citizens, but this government will not do it. It is a tax, borrow and spend government. It is playing the worst possible experiment with the United Kingdom.